Hi, this is Tim Boss with FinancialCyclesWeekly.com with another Astro Traders video tip of the week. We've got some vital news today because we're getting ready for a major shift in the market action. This is due to a couple of big events coming up here in the next few days. And we're recording this on the 18th of March in 2021. And so we're looking ahead a couple of days to the Aries equinox coming up on Saturday, the 20th of March. This, of course, is a major seasonal shift. We're changing from one season to another, moving into spring in the northern hemisphere, into fall in the southern hemisphere, as the sun moves into the zodiac sign of Aries. This was one of W.D. Gann's favorite indicators. He paid a lot of attention to the seasonal cycles and flagged this on a lot of his dials and market charts as an important time. It is an annual inflection point that we want to pay attention to. And so this is something we pay attention to every year at this time. What's happening right now, however, is 2 days later, on Monday the 22nd of March, in the early hours of the morning in Eastern Time and New York time, we will have the trans-Neptunian factor Hades going into direct motion. This Hades direct station is a major dynamic here as well. The trans-Neptunians can have a powerful effect on the markets, and of course Hades is all about social strain, economic strain. The emphasis here with Hades is basically what the name implies. It's all about the very worst conditions with whatever we're dealing with. So let's take a quick look at the 90-degree dials for these two events. This is the Aries equinox, again coming up at about 5:30 in the morning Eastern time on the 20th of March. And what we're looking at are the midpoints that get triggered here. And so we have the Neptune Hades midpoint activated by the equinox coming up here on the 20th of March. That indicates losses and damages through mistakes and through outright deception. So we need to be careful in our own affairs, but also look for this at a larger scale level as well in terms of corporate actions, governmental actions, and whatnot. Things have the potential for getting messed up here. Mars Zeus midpoint activation gives us a little more background information about that, because that's all about burning heat, fire, having open flames around that can be dangerous. This is also about intense creative activity. Sometimes that's forced creativity. In other words, you get the job done right now. You're kind of under pressure there. It's also procreation, the sexual act, military techniques, firearms, all of those things that have a very forceful dynamic about it. So it's almost like we're trying to push the river here in a way with that Mars Zeus activation as well. And finally, we've got Jupiter-Uranus midpoint being activated also at the time of the Aries equinox. This is all about material success. It represents a change in luck. Typically, we're looking for good luck coming out of this, but it can also go the other way. If we're having things go well, it can be kind of a shift in circumstances that gets triggered by that. Then, of course, 2 days later, in the early morning hours on March the 22nd, on Monday, we're looking at the Hades direct station. This, in and of itself, is a powerful event, but it also triggers some midpoint structures that we want to be aware of, including the Neptune-Pluto midpoint, which is all about epidemics or pandemics, more appropriately right now, and also low behavior in terms of setting low standards, sometimes very treacherous and deliberately deceitful behavior as well. Things that happen in secret that can have a potentially negative impact kind of adds to the emphasis here for that Hades station. Mercury-Uranus is all about getting terrible news, messages about evil when it triggers that Hades dynamic as well. And so this is the instigation of robbery, the instigation of murder, getting information that can cause upset and generally negative activity on that basis. So that's what we're looking for at a general level, geopolitically, economically, coming about because of this shift. Now, what's going to happen in the markets here? Well, we're able to do our back testing, of course, and we look at the history of the S&P, and we find here that the Aries equinox, which is that 0 point in the middle of the diagram here, will typically bring about an upward price movement in the S&P. It takes about 10-12 days before that takes off, but after that does that here, coming up, in this case it'll hit around the 1st, 2nd of April, we're expecting a surge upward coming out of this equinox phenomenon. Now when we go and look at the Hades direct stations vis-a-vis the S&P, that's also an upward trend. And so we start here on the date of the direct station, which will be the 22nd of March, and we move upward here into the 13th of April, and we have a 71% probability of the S&P going up by about 2.5%, 2.65% to be exact. And so we're looking at this as a potentially bullish indicator for the S&P as we move through this change of the seasons and trigger this important Gann point. It gets reinforcement in this case from the Hades direct station. Now here is the current chart for Bitcoin. This was captured a little bit earlier this morning here, and Bitcoin of course has been up 53.5% since the 1st of January. An incredible move that's gotten everybody's attention. Of course, we were looking at it about a week ago here on the 12th of March when it hit an all-time intraday high of $61,683.86. Of course, it has pulled back since that time. And what we're looking at here, of course, is the impact then, historically, of that Aries equinox on Bitcoin as well. And in this case, it's a much more congested trading pattern for about 30 days beforehand. And what we've been seeing here is even though Bitcoin's been hitting new highs, it has been backing off, and it's not a clear upward parabolic move anymore from what we've been seeing. However, that may change here about 10-12 days after the equinox. Again, that first couple of days of April, we're expecting a very potent price surge with Bitcoin going into about the 21st, 22nd of April, somewhere in there. Now notice this diagram. What we're doing, this is based on our backtesting of previous examples. We're looking at a major surge here with Bitcoin based on this historical pattern, but then what comes after that is an immediate plunge back to the downside. So we're looking here at current price levels right now, may be an important level of support for us to be checking out with Bitcoin as we move forward. What happens with the Hades dynamic? Well, the Hades direct stations have a very similar pattern with what happens with Bitcoin as well. Of course, here the 0 point is the 22nd of March, and as you can see, that trend toward congestion moving horizontally through most of that time frame. But we do have a 56% probability of a big increase in Bitcoin, again by about the 19th of April based on our work here. So around April 19th to 21st, 22nd, something like that, we're looking for a potential top in Bitcoin trading. Now, according to our calculations, that top could be as high as $87,195. We'll see if that holds up. But what we're really interested in is understanding the current trading range and how we should be positioned with regard to Bitcoin. We are definitely long-term bullish, but what does that look like here? Of course, we've been tracking along the way over the last couple of months here especially the support and resistance zones defined by the 8 harmonic planetary price lines for Chronos in the trading chart for Bitcoin. And we've seen and noted these support levels that were resistance levels, and as is typical with most charting, once something begins to move upward, a former resistance zone will then become support if we have the price fall back. This is a very encouraging sign, by the way. It indicates that we're not in a totally speculative market with Bitcoin, and this is a much more solid way to advance prices along the way. So what we're looking at here, again, we noted this earlier today on the 18th of March. Bitcoin was trading at that particular moment at $58,610, and Bitcoin being Bitcoin, it may have swerved radically from that point, from that time until we're making this recording right now. But what we're we're curious about here is this current zone that we have the little dotted circle around there with the resistance zone at 59,730 and the support at 55,230. And so we're in the middle of that range right now. If we drop below that 55,000 level, then this becomes a buying signal for Bitcoin for those who want to hold for the longer term. So we're watching that as an important indicator. And if it hits that level and bounces back off, we may not get an entry point there, but we're looking for a move that really breaks that support zone. That becomes an indicator that it's an opportunity for adding to long positions in Bitcoin. On the upside, we note 59,730 is our calculation there for resistance, and when we were looking at that point at which on last Friday, on the 12th of March, it broke above 60,000, and that was a historic day when it actually kissed 61,000 there briefly. That held up for just about a day and a half, and what happened immediately afterwards, that resistance zone at around 59,700, just shy of 60,000, went back into effect. So we tested that effectively with that high, and when we see a breakout then above 60,000 and prices begin to move above that level consistently, that's maybe what we see happening here after the first couple of days of April. At any rate, that's our outlook right now. We're looking at these price targets, watching these resistance zones, specifically around that 60,000 range, 59,730 there. And again, if there's a break below 55,230 and it holds there for the better part of a trading day at least, then we'll be looking at that as a buying opportunity for Bitcoin. So that's what we have in store based on these two big factors coming up here in just a couple of days. The Aries equinox on Saturday the 20th of March, and then the Hades direct station coming up Monday morning on March 22nd. That's our Astro Traders video tip of the week. For more tips, subscribe today and go to financialcyclesweekly.com.